This conference will now be
Well, good
recorded.
afternoon. This is Mr. Not Advice. It's Monday, June 8th, 2026. As always, this is for entertainment and education purposes only. Only my end of the day update. So, interestingly, Zero Hedge has a title of Stocks Having a Dead Cat Bounce. All right. So, we're looking at whether or not this is a dead cat bounce or dip buying. I'm going to go over why I think this is a dead cat bounce. A couple of reasons why. There's an old saying that markets don't bottom on Fridays. There's number one. Number two, after a big sell off like that, you usually see those lows get tested again. Friday was the 22nd time the NDX NASDAQ has lost 4% or more in the last 30 years on a Friday. And in 17 of the prior 21 occurrences, the NASDAQ broke Friday's intraday low on the following Monday. 19 of 21 times it broke Friday's low by the following Friday. Only twice did it take longer than a week. But if history is any guide, when the NASDAQ loses 4% or more on a Friday, there's a 90% chance that Friday's low is breached in the next 5 trading days. And I don't really think it's going to I don't think it's going to be any different. And so we have not even tested that low yet. So I think there's still downside risk. Now, you may be wondering why I'm holding my longs, because they're Julys. And I think after we get those lows, I think the market can rally. So what happened overnight? The non-war shooting back and forth, defensive, whatever, all that bullshit continued to happen. The big mover was the Kospi. My loving fellow countrymen in South Korea got hammered. They went out at the lows overnight, down almost 17% from Wednesday's highs. That is a wicked, wicked move. And there was expected to be some sort of relief rally today after we had a bunch of weekend notes, reassuring notes from various big bank desks. And then the NASDAQ, of course, was got some gains today based on Jensen Huang's buying opportunities comments. But by the close today, the S&P was barely up. For some context, the NASDAQ is still down 3.5% right here from Thursday's close. The Dow is down 1.5%. Okay, so today what we had was around 11:25 Eastern time, which was oddly the same time with Bibi's comments, Netanyahu's comments on holding fire. We had a lot of large negative delta flows from DTE. So they were selling puts and selling calls. They were, and what that is a bet on is volatility to drop, which may not be a smart bet when I show you the volatility chart. Also, at about 2 p.m. Eastern time, first we had a big sell program go off an hour right at the open, and then we had a very large buy program lifted the market. Around 12:30 Eastern time, stocks stalled after the headline came across that the Pentagon had issued a list of China's military firms operating in the U.S., and that include Baidu, Alibaba, SMIC Semiconductor, and BYD, the auto manufacturer. Okay. AI semis were the standout today. Excuse me, my dog's about to bark. All right. So the SOX was up, but just managed a 50% retrace. All 30 members of the SOX were up today, led by Marvell, Intel, and Micron. However, looking at some of the higher volatility pockets that were down over the last 5 days, quantum computer, meme stocks, and Bitcoin sensitive were all stronger today. But they, on the lagging side, was the S&P and NVIDIA and semis. So we didn't really get much of a bounce in the quantum computing section. In addition, we've got software, which is back into correction mode, 11% from highs in the last 3 days. Today's goose egg of the day goes to Mr. Tim Cook as his Worldwide Developer Conference, which he unveiled Apple Siri AI. What a joke. And Apple was up 3.3% today to ending the day down over 0.5%. So obviously the market wasn't impressed by that. Looking at today, Goldman's flows were 3 out of 10 in terms of overall activity levels with a 4% buy skew. Long only funds were 6% better buy. They were led by healthcare, consumer staples, and financials. Hedge funds were 3% better for sales, with almost heavy concentration was in macro products. Overall breadth remained very poor, with 300 names down on the session in the S&P 500. Um, and Today's rally stalled right below the 20-day moving average on the NASDAQ. And it is highly likely that we get a test of the 50-day on the NASDAQ, which is down there at 27,565. So if I switch over to the NASDAQ, 27,565 is right at the 50-day. So looks like we're only about halfway done with this down move, okay? I'm going to tell you my plan for trading here. It was interesting with the ZOTTE buying today. They were sellers of calls and puts, which are straddles. And yet, what do we have? The vol term structure is actually higher until next week. So very interesting. With regards to SpaceX, Spock Gamma notes that there's a lot going on, but there's a whole lot of capital is going to be allocating to it, and the capital has to come from somewhere. So looks like the major sellers right now are ETFs are being sold, and as well as some memory stocks are being sold. This is very encouraging looking at business activity in terms of new business formation. They are just surging, and that could be a very good tailwind for the U.S. economy. Final note here, this is Bank of America. As you may have heard, that 70% of their bear market signals are firing right now. Here we are right here. What's missing? Consumer confidence. This is a sell side trigger, that's internal, and then inverted yield curve. We're not going to get that because the yield curve is flattening right now. So 70%, and so they went out and publicly said today that their clients should be sellers. So what are my plans here? Look, Nokia, Highland, Hymix. Since I'm out to July, I expect we hit a low this week, and then SpaceX is able to put back into the market some more excitement. I absolutely think that Bitcoin is going to retest this low. When it does, I'll be up 24%. To answer Mr. Ohm's question, I never did in our meeting, why I chose IBIT instead of BitX. Because if I'm buying puts, I don't want that decay, and I simply wanted exposure to Bitcoin to the downside for the next 2 weeks. So my plan is to ride this down and then probably double down on my longs, Hymix, Highland, Nokia. We are going to try to get into an Oscar trade. Of course, when StarPack's on her little business trip, but we're going to try to get into an Oscar trade. I want nothing to do with software as a service, IGV. It's well down below where well down below where we took profits and almost below where we entered. Same thing goes with DRAM. Right now, I want to wait and see this down. Friday's low get tested, then I'll have a little bit more excitement. I think we could probably get down here to the 50s, at least the 50s, 52, 53 in DRAM, and maybe at that point I'll look for a reversal. I don't think my other company that I'm stalking is PCT. PCT did break this support level, was able to close above it. Remember, we've got two nasty gaps that are way, way below. And so we need to fill those gaps before you can really get excited about this thing moving higher. But I think maybe we get down to the $10 range. If we were to go down and fill this gap down at 790-ish, I'd be backing up the truck on that. So all in all, is a boring day today. I'm so sorry. But we'll have a couple trades in the morning tomorrow, and I hope you have a great evening.